While developing the budget is the first priority, there will be a number of issues lawmakers will contend with when the legislative session begins next month. Legislators have already met once this year as required by the state constitution. ONR's Dick Pryor spoke with eCapitol News Director Shawn Ashley about that and a number of matters that interest at the Capitol.
Shawn, Tuesday was Legislative Organizational Day. What happens that day?
Well, every 2 years, in the odd-numbered years following the elections and the even-numbered years, the legislature comes together really to get started on the new legislative session, which will run this time in 2015 and 2016. They do some housekeeping matters, like how much each office has to spend for mail and things like that. But the most important thing they do is elect the leadership in each chamber. And as expected, Senator Brian Bingman was elected President Pro Tem of the Senate. It will be his third term, which makes him the longest-serving Republican Pro Tem in the history of the state. And over on the House side, Jeff Hickman was elected House Speaker, and he will serve for the next 2 years in that role.
When you look at that day, there are also some comments typically made, and this was no different. Leadership did make some comments about what they see in the upcoming legislative session.
That's right. Both Senator Bingman and Representative Hickman were allowed an opportunity to speak after their elections, and both addressed what each chamber has been able to accomplish over the last couple of years. Both of them noted that the chambers came together on important issues, that the members came together and worked to resolve some important issues like the budget and other matters. And said that they face challenges going forward. Also, each reminded the new members of their chambers that this is not a case where you get to sit on the back row and just watch what happens. We expect you to jump in, to do work, and to contribute. And that will probably be the case going forward.
You mentioned challenges going forward. The big one is the budget.
The budget is a big issue for the legislature this session. As we learned in December, we're looking at about $300 million less to spend. A big portion of that is the result of one-time money that the legislature spent during the 2014 session. About 291 of the nearly $300 million they're short was that one-time money. So they're going to have to find a way to bridge that hole while not tapping new one-time money. The Attorney General has warned them in a couple of Attorney General's opinions that the way they took money from certain accounts was probably not proper. So they're going to have to avoid doing that. And to do that, it further lessens the amount of money that they can access.
The Senate adopted a rule change, which is interesting.
Yes, it is. Each year, usually by the middle of January, all members have to file their legislation to be heard that will be heard during the session. The Senate has decided to allow members to file bills at any time. So the January 22nd filing deadline still applies to bills they really want to be heard this session. But members can continue to file bills, and some of those could be heard. The deadline is hard for the House. They have to file their bills by January 22nd, and probably when all is said and done, there'll be better than 2,000 pieces of legislation on the table for consideration.
One bill that has already been filed by Senator Don Barrington has achieved international attention.
That's right. It's become known as the hoodie bill, and it's rather interesting. The section of law which he is amending dates back to the 1920s and concerns over the Ku Klux Klan in the state of Oklahoma. What his bill would do would make it a crime to intentionally conceal one's identity with some exceptions, including Halloween, religious purposes, and sports mascots, among others. I'm not sure it's appropriate to call it a hoodie bill because most of us don't wear hoodies to conceal our identities. We wear hoodies to keep our heads warm.
Especially you.
Especially me, the plight of the bald man. But it has generated national attention. And in fact, there have been bills in other states that were passed really to outlaw covering oneself in such a way. I think when all is said and done, we'll come up with some language that will work for the legislators and the public and will address Senator Barrington's concerns.
There will be a lot to watch over the months ahead. eCapitol News Director Shawn Ashley, thank you.
You're very welcome.